Hello there, folks. Welcome to another exciting episode where we delve into the intricate and often surprising world of global trade. Tonight, we're diving into the wonderful world of international trade. It's a complex web of agreements, negotiations, and sometimes conflicts that shape the global economy. Specifically, we're talking about pork. Delicious, delicious pork. From sizzling bacon to succulent pork chops, it's a staple in many diets around the world. But also pork that's at the center of a growing trade war. Trade wars can have far-reaching consequences, affecting not just the countries involved but also the global market. Recently, China did something quite dramatic. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the industry, they canceled a massive order of U.S. pork. 12,000 tons to be exact. This isn't just a small hiccup, it's a significant disruption in the supply chain. That's enough bacon to wrap around the Great Wall of China twice. Imagine the sheer volume and the impact of such a cancellation. This is the largest cancellation since the pandemic, and it's got everyone in the pork industry sweating. The pandemic had already strained the industry, and this latest development adds another layer of complexity. Farmers and producers are now scrambling to find new buyers for their products. The economic implications are vast, affecting not just the pork industry but also related sectors. Consumers might also feel the impact. With such a large order canceled, there could be fluctuations in pork prices, and availability might become an issue in some areas. Trade negotiations are ongoing and both sides are trying to find a resolution. However, the road ahead is uncertain and the stakes are high. The global market is watching closely, as any major shifts in trade policies between these two economic giants can have ripple effects worldwide. So, the next time you enjoy a delicious pork dish, remember the complex journey it took to get to your plate. From farms to international negotiations, it's a story of resilience and adaptation. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story and bring you the latest updates on the porky predicament. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. So why is China suddenly giving the cold shoulder to American piggies? The answer lies in the complex and often contentious world of international trade. Over the past few years, the relationship between the United States and China has been anything but smooth. Tensions have escalated, leading to a series of economic skirmishes that have had far-reaching consequences for industries on both sides of the Pacific. Well, it all boils down to a good old-fashioned trade war. Trade wars are essentially economic conflicts where countries impose tariffs or other trade barriers on each other in response to trade practices they deem unfair. In this case, the US and China have been locked in a tit-for-tat battle, each side trying to outdo the other with higher tariffs and stricter trade policies. You see, the US slapped hefty tariffs on Chinese goods, a whopping 145%. These tariffs were aimed at reducing the trade deficit and protecting American industries from what the U.S. government perceived as unfair competition. However, such high tariffs also meant that Chinese products became significantly more expensive for American consumers and businesses. And China, not one to back down, retaliated with their own tariffs on U.S. goods, including a 125% tariff on pork. This move was strategic, targeting a key American export and putting pressure on U.S. farmers and the agricultural sector. The Chinese government aimed to show that they could hit back just as hard, if not harder. As a result, American pork now faces a staggering 172% tariff in China. This has made American pork prohibitively expensive for Chinese consumers, leading to a significant drop in demand. U.S. pork producers, who once relied heavily on the Chinese market, are now struggling to find alternative buyers for their products. That's like adding an extra zero to the price tag. Imagine going to the market and seeing the price of pork suddenly skyrocket. For many Chinese families, pork is a staple in their diet, and such a dramatic increase in price has forced them to look for alternatives or cut back on their consumption altogether. It's no wonder China's looking elsewhere for their pork fix. Countries like Spain and Brazil have stepped in to fill the gap left by American pork. These countries have ramped up their pork production and exports to China, seizing the opportunity to capture a larger share of the Chinese market. This shift in trade dynamics has not only affected the U.S. pork industry, but has also reshaped global pork trade routes. Chinese consumers are now becoming more familiar with Spanish and Brazilian pork brands, and these products are becoming increasingly popular in Chinese markets. The trade war has inadvertently opened up new opportunities for other pork-producing nations, while American pork producers are left grappling with the fallout. The long-term effects of these tariffs are still unfolding, but one thing is clear: the landscape of international pork trade has been irrevocably altered. This trade war is hitting American pork producers where it hurts: their wallets. China was the third largest market for U.S. pork last year, importing over $1 billion worth of the good stuff. But with these tariffs in place, American pork has become prohibitively expensive for Chinese buyers. American farmers are now stuck with a surplus of pork and nowhere to sell it. It's a tough situation, and it's putting a real strain on the industry. So, with America out of the picture, who's filling China's pork needs? Enter Spain and Brazil, stage left. These countries have been quick to capitalize on the trade war, swooping in to become China's new pork providers. China has already signed trade agreements with Spain, securing a steady supply of pork and cherries, because why not? It seems Spain and Brazil are the new kids on the block when it comes to feeding China's insatiable appetite for pork. A global game of pork. Now, it's important to remember that this isn't just a two-player game. The global pork market is a complex web of interdependencies involving numerous countries and countless stakeholders. From the farmers who raise the pigs to the traders who negotiate deals, and the consumers who enjoy pork on their plates, everyone is affected. The stakes are incredibly high, and the outcomes of these trade negotiations can have far-reaching consequences. This trade war is having ripple effects throughout the global pork market. Stock markets are reacting, shipping routes are being redrawn, and new trade alliances are forming. The interconnected nature of global trade means that a change in one part of the world can have significant impacts elsewhere. For instance, a tariff imposed by one country can lead to a surplus in another, affecting prices and availability on a global scale. China, as you might expect, is the world's largest pork producer, churning out a mind-boggling 57 million tons of the stuff every year. This massive production capacity is not just for domestic consumption. China is also a significant player in the global pork export market. However, recent shifts in trade policies and domestic challenges, such as outbreaks of African swine fever, have forced China to look for new trading partners and strategies. The U.S. comes in third place, producing a respectable 12 million tons. American pork producers have long relied on exports to sustain their operations, with a significant portion of their product destined for international markets. However, the ongoing trade tensions have created uncertainties, prompting U.S. producers to explore new markets and adapt their strategies to remain competitive. But with China looking elsewhere, the global dynamics of pork production and trade are shifting right before our eyes. Countries that were once minor players are now stepping up to fill the void, and new trade routes are being established. This evolving landscape presents both challenges and opportunities for producers and consumers alike. As the world watches, the game of pork continues to unfold, with each move potentially reshaping the global market. Mixed messages on trade talks. So, is there any end in sight to this pork-laden trade war? Well, that's where things get a little murky. President Trump has hinted at progress in trade talks with China, even suggesting the possibility of tariff reductions. However, China has denied any active negotiations, insisting that any talks must be based on mutual respect and equality. It's a diplomatic standoff, with both sides playing their cards close to their chests. The economic domino effect. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is getting increasingly anxious. They've urged a swift resolution to the trade dispute, warning that it could trigger a global economic slowdown. And they're not wrong to be worried. This trade war isn't just about pork, it's about soybeans, it's about cars, it's about everything. And the longer it drags on, the greater the risk to the global economy. A recipe for uncertainty. So, what does the future hold for American pork producers? Right now, it's a recipe for uncertainty. The trade war has created a volatile market, making it difficult for farmers to plan for the future. Will the tariffs be lifted? Will China come back to the negotiating table? Only time will tell. Stay informed. And that, my friends, is the current state of the global pork market, a tangled web of tariffs, trade wars, and geopolitical maneuvering. It's a complicated issue with no easy answers, but one thing's for sure, this pork-laden saga is far from over. Stay tuned, and in the meantime, maybe stock up on some bacon, just in case. And that's our show for tonight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hard-hitting news and analysis.